Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with yet another Universal monster review, whatever. And so my last review was House of Dracula, which was pretty much the sad swan song of Universal monster films, being known as horror films. And 3 years later, they decided to go another route because people involved really wanted to do it. It was a formula that hadn't really been done before. And after the disappointing success of House of Dracula, it was really the only way to go with the characters. And that was horror comedy. Teaming up monsters and comedians. And there was no better way to do it than in 1948 with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. This was very successful, and it spawned a series of its own of Abbott and Costello Meets. They went on to do Meets the Invisible Man, Meets the Mummy, all of which were included in this box set. Meets Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is not, but I would like to see it. I have seen a DVD collection of Abbott and Costello Meets the Monsters. I don't really want to get it for just one movie unless there's good features on it. Which this has like a half hour. The disc that this is on has like a half hour documentary on who Abbott and Costello are, how they met, how they got started together, earlier films, wanting to do stuff with monsters and the possibilities, and what came of it. And for those that don't know who Abbott and Costello are, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello is a comedy team that started some point in the 30s. That was when they met. And their shtick in comedy is you have the tall, skinny, smart guy, Bud Abbott, and you have the short, heavier set, dumb guy, Lou Costello. And that's where the comedy builds off of. One of the funniest comedy bits ever made is Who's On First. The confusing, frustrating conversation of people with confusing names on bases during a baseball game. Funny as hell. And also, like, Nathan and Mimsy on South Park are kind of a parody of that. Or at least the Looney Tunes have the cats that are essentially based on them as well. And kind of like the Three Stooges, a lot of their movies and bits, they have different jobs, in different areas with different scenarios. Like here, they are baggage handlers who, they get a call from Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, saying, you're going to get 2 crates for, this House of Horrors. Do not open it without me. But the owner comes in and says, you need to deliver this to my House of Horrors. They find out one crate has Frankenstein's Monster, the other crate has Count Dracula. And of course, when they open them, the monsters come alive. Larry Talbot comes to help them, but then they also got to deal with the Wolfman. And just through the characters using their style of comedy, deal with those monsters. And I thought it was very funny. I laughed quite a bit. I just turned 28, but I must be an old soul at heart because I don't find comedies funny today. I haven't found comedies with a select few in the last 10 years. Have I really found comedies funny? I mean, to me, Monty Python's the funniest. The number one comedy, the group, the movies, the show. My favorite, funniest thing in the world to me. Then would be things like American comedy, Ghostbusters. second would probably be Airplane, then Clerks. I love the Marx Brothers, who was even before Abbott and Costello. I like Abbott and Costello. I like the Zucker Brothers, who did Airplane and Top Secret and Hot Shots. I like Kevin Smith, his 90s stuff. Clerks and Mallrats. To me, more of the SNL, classic SNL, like Ghostbusters and SCTV, like Animal House, National Lampoon. To me, that's comedy. I don't find stuff today funny. People today might not find Abbott Costello funny. Because one, it's actually funny. I don't mean to sound like a prick, but, it's... I think Chris Farley might have been a little inspired by Lou Costello, kind of falling down and stuff like that. But anyway, I don't really find that part of the movie funny. Like when Lou Costello gets scared, he has his over-the-top reactions. Or like when he tries to run away and he falls or he runs into things. I don't find that funny. I find the dialogue between these two funny. The back and forth ping pong action of dialogue. Or even like the way they talk to the monsters. I find that funny. And another thing that really works is the same way why like Airplane and The Naked Gun work, because they have dramatic actors playing their roles straight, but they're saying and doing really silly things. Like here, amazingly, you have Lon Chaney Jr. as Wolfman, of course, returning for the second time only playing Dracula. He played many vampires, but only played Dracula twice. It's a big misconception. Bela Lugosi himself is in this as Dracula. And then you have Glen Strange returning as the monster. And so you have like the pinnacle of horror, which I would say Glen Strange is the best monster after Karloff. Karloff did not want to do it because he thought it was making fun of the monster. He didn't want anything to do with that. But he liked the idea. So he did help promote the film. So, I find that admirable. And, it's just lines like, of course, Costello, there's this joke that these two beautiful women separately are both madly in love with Costello, and Abbott can't stand it. Come to find out, they're both working with Dracula. Because when Dracula gets released, well, first, it's the whole thing about how Dracula's trying to get, he has like the hand trying to get out of the coffin, but Costello keeps catching him. And every time, like, even when Costello, just his reactions, like, as one guy, he's walking around like, and then there's one guy that's like, but every time he does it again, he adds a little more. Like when someone else comes down, he's like, what are you talking about? There's no one down here. He's like, oh, what do you mean? You didn't see the guy that's like, or the guy that's like this? It's funnier the way he does it. And just, I'd only seen it once, so I can't really remember the jokes, like if I was talking about Monty Python or Ghostbusters. But it's just these quick, rapid-fire jokes within the dialogue that make it so funny. And so, Dracula wants to put, he wants to find a stupid person to put their brain in the monster's body so he could have, a big, strong slave. And both women working for Dracula, they both suggest Costello. Of course, the Wolfman wants to stop both of them because they're evil. And with this movie, I guess the monster is called Frankenstein because there's no doctor in this. Costello even calls him Frankie. And yeah, I can't remember any of the rapid fire dialogue jokes, but like when Costello sees Dracula helping the monster out of his crate, Costello's like frozen stiff. So Dracula's like leading the monster. So he's walking, and when he sees Costello, he goes, ah! Just the way it was done was perfect. And like the whole third act takes place at this masquerade party. So of course, Dracula's dressed up like Dracula. There's a cut. Bela Lugosi and Glen Strange are portraying their monsters the way they would behave in a horror film. That's what makes the comedy work. Lon Chaney does too. Like, he still plays Larry Talbot as very tormented, and they do kind of poke fun at how he always has to tell people that he's a werewolf and they don't believe him. Like, they do kind of make it a little more melodramatic. He's like, as soon as the moon is up, I'm gonna become a wolf. And he's like, yeah, you and about 40 million other guys. He grabs him by the shirt and he says something about like ripping his heart out or doing something violent a wolf would do. So Costello's like, is he serious? Abbott says, he is going to kill you. And he's like, that's serious. Like he wants them to lock him in his room. So they do, but then Costello wants to bring him his bag, and of course he's already transformed. And there's this and another scene out in the woods where Costello doesn't see the Wolfman. He keeps trying to sneak up on him. And just when he's about to attack, Costello moves out of the way, or he reaches down to do something. So the Wolfman falls or trips or misses. So I would say Lon Chaney's the one that has to act the goofiest out of all of them. But other than that, they all pretty much behave the way they would in the horror film. They're playing it straight. It's Abbott and Costello who are bringing us the comedy. That's why it works. Which is why when you got into the 90s or the 2000s, people were making Liam Neeson play a goofy, over-the-top comedy character, which isn't why he was funny in Airplane, Police Squad, or Naked Gun. Or you have all those stupid movies. The movies in Adam Sandler is the absolute antithesis of comedy, next to 2016 Ghostbusters. But I thought this was a really fun movie. I really did. And I know I can't remember any of the jokes because I just saw it the once. I had been familiar with them a little bit because I love Who's on First. My grandfather showed me some of their bits when I was younger. I'm glad I have Meets the Mummy, Meets the Invisible Man, because I'm excited to see those. I think it was great that they got Bela Lugosi to come back as Dracula. Glen Strange kind of talks in this one. He just says, like, yes, master to Dracula. And I would say the Wolfman is probably the least evil, because at least Larry Talbot's trying to stop them. The kind of has an anti-heroic ending, because Dracula turns into a bat. Spoilers. And then the Wolfman grabs a hold of him and like eats him as he falls off the cliff into the water, with really cheesy splash effects. But I love when Dracula turns into a bat. It turns into like this cartoon animation bat. I just think it looks cool. I also love the cartoon opening credits. It's very like, you see the silhouettes of the monsters, and it's like the Halloween music and like the ooh. But then there's like a skeleton that when he bursts, the bones spell out the title, and it's kind of goofy and silly. But it just reminds me of like those old cartoons like Casper and stuff. I love that. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, it has the perfect blend of horror and comedy because the monsters are still being scary. But Abbott and Costello are very funny. They really are. And I also know people that won't watch old comedies just because they think it's old. It's not funny. Like, well, it's not Adam Sandler getting kicked in the balls and making a stupid face. Like, no, it's way funnier than that. But, and yeah, these movies did kind of turn into, like, I think it's Meets the Invisible Man. Costello really just does a lot of pratfalls and runs into stuff. It's less dialogue driven. I love the bit when they're down in the dungeon. There's like the spinning, like hidden wall, kind of like the bookcase in Young Frankenstein. And just Costello keeps ending up on the side with the monsters, so that when he runs back, he tries to get Abbott to listen to him. So they both run through and it spins. The monsters get on the other side too. And it's just this whole, he's like, they're here. Where? I don't see him. And it's just like, they must be on the other side. Like, just so confidently. Probably my favorite moment before I cut this is they want to fool Frankenstein's monster. So Costello gets like this black towel and he wears it like this. And he's talking to the monster like, back away. And the monster does. He's like, yes. Then right when he says, yes, master, he just takes it and he's just like, he thinks I'm Dracula. And he's all confident and it just kills the charade. Very funny movie. They really knew what to make funny, what to keep serious and scary, and it worked out perfectly. I would put this up there. It is, because there's comedy horrors like Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland. Then there's horror comedies, or even Young Frankenstein I put in there too. There's horror comedies like Evil Dead, Dead Alive, Reanimator, Return of the Living Dead. I would probably consider this above all more so a comedy because it's Abbott and Costello. But I would put this up there with like Ghostbusters and Young Frankenstein as funniest horror comedies. And yeah, I love Evil Dead 2 and Dead Alive more, but those are horror comedies, at least I think so. Flat out comedies that have horror elements, I'd probably say Ghostbusters, Young Frankenstein than this. I thought this was very fun, very enjoyable, very funny, and a great use of the monsters. This was the perfect route to go for Universal after, the disappointing House of Dracula. But anyway, thank you for watching.